The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the polished marble floors of Pinnacle Savings Bank in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was March 28, 2025, and the air outside buzzed with the hum of a city winding down for the weekend. Inside, the lobby was a symphony of quiet efficiency, tellers tapping at keyboards, customers shuffling through paperwork, and the faint hum of an air conditioner keeping the space cool despite the spring heat. At the far end of the room, a woman stepped through the glass doors, unnoticed by most. She wore a faded denim jacket, a plain white t-shirt, and scuffed sneakers. Nothing about her screamed wealth or power. Her dark hair was pulled into a loose bun, strands escaping to frame her face, and she carried a simple canvas tote bag slung over one shoulder. To anyone watching, she was just another customer, perhaps a small business owner or a teacher cashing a paycheck. But appearances, as they often do, lied. Her name was Elena Vasquez, and she was no ordinary customer. Elena was the founder and CEO of Pinnacle Savings, a financial institution she'd built from a single branch in a strip mall to a regional powerhouse with assets in the billions. 20 years ago, she'd been a single mother with a dream, scraping together every penny to start a bank that promised fairness, transparency, and opportunity for people the big banks ignored. She'd faced skepticism, sexism, and outright rejection, but she'd turned every no into fuel. Now, Pinnacle Savings was her legacy, a testament to her grit and vision. Yet, for all her success, a question had begun to gnaw at her: was her bank still living up to the values she'd poured into it? The thought had started as a whisper months ago, sparked by a casual comment from an old friend: "Elena, your branches are great, but some of your staff, they've got that big bank attitude." She'd laughed it off at first. Pinnacle had policies, strict ones, about customer service and equality. Her employees were trained to treat everyone with respect, from the millionaire in a three-piece suit to the construction worker in dusty boots. But the more she heard, stories of delays, extra scrutiny, subtle condescension, the more that whisper grew into a roar. Policies were meaningless if they weren't lived. So today, Elena decided to find out for herself. No private security, no executive assistant, no tailored suit. Just her, a debit card linked to her personal account, and a plan to withdraw $7,000 in cash. She chose the Charlotte East branch, one she'd opened 5 years ago with a speech about community and trust. She remembered the ribbon-cutting ceremony vividly, the mayor's handshake, the applause, the promise she'd made to the crowd that this bank would be different. Now, as she stepped into the lobby, she felt a flicker of nostalgia mixed with unease. The space was pristine, sleek counters, modern lighting, a digital kiosk glowing in the corner. A handful of customers milled about, a young man in a hoodie depositing a check, an elderly woman counting coins with a teller, a businessman tapping impatiently on his phone. Elena adjusted her tote bag and joined the line, her heart beating a little faster than usual. This wasn't about the money. It was about the truth. When her turn came, she approached a teller named Marcus, a lanky man in his early 30s with a name tag pinned crookedly to his vest. His eyes flicked up from his screen, giving her a quick once-over before returning to his keyboard. "No, hello, no, how can I assist you?" Just a curt, "What do you need?" Elena kept her voice steady. "I'd like to withdraw $7,000 from my account." Marcus's fingers paused over the keys, and he glanced at her again, this time longer, his brow creasing slightly. 7,000, he repeated, as if she'd asked for 1,000,000. "Yeah," Elena said, sliding her debit card and driver's license across the counter. "In cash." Marcus picked up her ID, holding it between two fingers like it might be contaminated. He tilted it toward the light, squinting, then looked back at her. "This your account?" he asked, his tone sharp with skepticism. Elena nodded, keeping her expression neutral. "Yes. Been with Pinnacle since it started." He didn't respond, just tapped something into his computer, his lips pursing as the screen loaded. The silence stretched, and Elena felt the first prickle of irritation. She'd withdrawn larger sums before, much larger, without so much as a raised eyebrow. But today, in this branch, something was off. After a moment, Marcus leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "I'm gonna need to verify this," he said, his voice flat. "Large withdrawals like that, we've got procedures." Elena tilted her head. "Fair enough. What do you need?" He didn't answer right away, just stood and grabbed her ID, muttering, "Wait here," before disappearing behind a partition. Elena exhaled slowly, her fingers tightening around the strap of her tote. She glanced around. None of the other customers seemed to be facing this kind of delay. The businessman from earlier was already walking out, a stack of cash in hand, no questions asked. The elderly woman was laughing with her teller, transaction complete. So why was she still standing here? Minutes ticked by, 5, then 10. The lobby's hum felt louder now, grating against her nerves. Finally, Marcus returned, but he wasn't alone. A woman followed him, mid-40s, with a crisp blazer and a name tag reading Lydia Carter, branch manager. Lydia's smile was tight, professional, but her eyes were cold, assessing Elena like she was a puzzle to solve. "Ms. Vasquez," she said, glancing at the ID in her hand. "I understand you're requesting a cash withdrawal." Elena nodded. "That's right. $7,000. My account's in good standing, shouldn't be an issue." Lydia's smile didn't waver, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We just need to confirm a few things. Can you tell me your occupation?" The question hit Elena like a slap. Occupation? She'd provided her ID, her card, her account number. This wasn't protocol, it was a power play. She kept her voice even. "I work in finance." Lydia raised an eyebrow. "What kind?" Elena paused, then said, "Banking." Lydia's smile flickered, but she pressed on. "And this is a personal account?" "Yes," Elena replied, her patience thinning. "It's all on the form I filled out." Lydia nodded slowly, too slowly, then set the ID down. "Unfortunately, we can't process this right now. Security measures. You understand." Elena's pulse quickened. Security measures? She'd written those measures herself, none of them included this level of nonsense. She leaned forward slightly. "What exactly can't you verify?" "You've got my ID, my card, my signature. What's the holdup?" Lydia clasped her hands, unfazed. "We need additional documentation. A utility bill, perhaps, or a secondary ID." Elena laughed, a short, incredulous sound. "You're kidding. For my own money?" Lydia didn't flinch. "It's policy." The word policy landed like a gauntlet. Elena straightened, her mind racing. She could walk away, call her executive team, and have this sorted in an hour. But that wouldn't fix the root of it. This wasn't just about her, it was about every customer who'd faced this scrutiny, who'd been made to feel small. She locked eyes with Lydia. "Pull up my account," she said, her tone firm. "You'll see everything you need." Lydia hesitated, then nodded to Marcus, who began typing. The screen flickered, and Elena saw the exact moment his face changed, pale, wide-eyed, a bead of sweat forming at his temple. Lydia leaned over, her own expression shifting as the truth dawned. But Elena wasn't done. She reached into her tote, pulled out her phone, and hit record. "Let's make this clear," she said, her voice steady as steel. "You're denying me access to my account, despite valid ID, while others walk out with cash no questions asked. I want to know why." Lydia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Marcus stammered, we didn't," Elena cut him off. "You didn't what?" "Check who I am." She smiled, cold and sharp. "That's about to change." The air in the Pinnacle Savings lobby thickened as Elena held her phone steady, the tiny red recording light a silent accusation. Lydia Carter, the branch manager, stood frozen behind the counter, her carefully composed mask slipping as the weight of Elena's words settled in. Marcus, the teller, looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor, his hands hovering uselessly over the keyboard. The handful of customers nearby had stopped pretending not to notice, heads turned, whispers rippled, and the tension was palpable. Elena didn't move, didn't blink. She'd spent 2 decades building this bank, fighting for every inch of respect, and she wasn't about to let this moment slide. Lydia recovered first, clearing her throat and forcing that tight smile back onto her face. "Ms. Vasquez, there's no need for this," she said, her voice smooth but strained. "We're just following protocol. If you'd like to step into my office, we can," Elena cut her off. "No. We're doing this here. You've had 10 minutes to verify me in private, and now you're stalling. I want answers, and I want them where everyone can hear." She tilted the phone slightly, ensuring the camera caught Lydia's face. "So tell me, what's the problem? My ID? My account? Or me?" Lydia's eyes darted to Marcus, then back to Elena. "It's not personal," she said, clasping her hands tighter. "Large cash withdrawals trigger extra steps. It's for your protection." Elena's laugh was sharp, cutting through the excuse like a blade. "My protection? I've withdrawn 10 times that amount from other branches without a blink. So why here? Why now?" She leaned forward, her voice dropping to a calm, dangerous pitch. "What's different about me today, Lydia?" The question hung in the air, heavy and undeniable. Lydia's smile faltered, and for a split second, something flickered in her eyes, guilt, maybe, or defiance. Marcus shifted uncomfortably, his gaze fixed on the screen, where Elena's account details glowed in stark clarity. Elena Vasquez, primary account holder, founder's tier, balance, $14. 2 million. The numbers didn't lie, and neither did the title. Marcus swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing as he muttered, "Miss Carter, you might want to see this." Lydia glanced at the screen, and her face drained of color. She opened her mouth, closed it, then tried again. I see. There seems to be a misunderstanding." Elena arched an eyebrow. "A misunderstanding? You've got my ID, my card, my account pulled up, and you're still telling me you can't process my withdrawal. What's there to misunderstand?" She turned the phone toward Marcus. "You saw it first. Care to explain?" Marcus stammered, his hands trembling slightly. I didn't know, I thought." He stopped, looking to Lydia for rescue, but she was too busy grappling with her own unraveling composure. Elena didn't let up. "You thought what? That I didn't belong here? That I couldn't possibly have that kind of money?" She stepped back, addressing the room now. "I built this bank for people like me, people who get judged before they even open their mouths. And today, I walked in to see if we're still that bank. Guess what I found?" The lobby was silent now, every eye on her. The businessman by the door paused, his hand on the handle. The elderly woman clutched her purse, nodding slightly as if she'd seen this before. Elena turned back to Lydia. "You've got 10 seconds to fix this, or I start making calls. And trust me, you don't want that." Lydia's jaw tightened, but before she could respond, a new voice cut through the tension. "Everything okay here?" A security guard stepped forward, a burly man with a badge pinned to his chest. His tone was neutral, but his presence was a statement. Elena didn't flinch. "Depends," she said, angling the phone toward him. "Are you here to help me get my money, or to make sure I leave without it?" The guard hesitated, glancing at Lydia, who gave a curt nod. "Just standard procedure," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Elena smiled, a slow, dangerous curve of her lips. Standard procedure. Funny how that only seems to apply to some of us. She slipped her phone into her pocket, but not before hitting stop on the recording. Then, with deliberate calm, she reached into her tote and pulled out a slim leather wallet. She flipped it open, revealing a badge of her own, not a bank card, but a corporate ID with her photo and title, Elena Vasquez, CEO, Pinnacle Savings Bank. The guard's eyes widened. Lydia's breath hitched. Marcus let out a small, involuntary sound. "I'm not just a customer," Elena said, her voice ringing clear. "I'm the woman who signs your paychecks. I opened this branch. I wrote the policies you're hiding behind. And right now, I'm wondering why my own people are treating me like a fraud." She set the ID on the counter, letting it sit there like a challenge. "So, Lydia, Marcus, tell me again why I can't have my money." The room seemed to shrink around them. Lydia's hands shook as she reached for the corporate ID, holding it up as if to confirm it wasn't a trick. "Ms. Vasquez," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We didn't realize," Elena cut her off. "You didn't realize because you didn't check. You saw me, jeans, sneakers, no fancy title, and you decided I didn't fit. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." She leaned in, her gaze piercing. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to process my withdrawal, right now. Then we're going to have a long talk about how this branch runs. Because if this is how you treat me, I can only imagine how you treat everyone else." Lydia nodded quickly, fumbling with the computer as Marcus scrambled to assist. Within minutes, $7,000 in crisp bills was stacked on the counter, wrapped in a paper band. Elena didn't touch it yet. She looked at Lydia, then Marcus, then the guard. "This isn't over," she said. "You've got a lot to answer for, and not just to me." She picked up the cash, slipped it into her tote, and turned to leave. But as she reached the door, she paused, glancing back at the stunned faces behind the counter. "Oh, and one more thing," she added, her voice carrying across the lobby. "Next time you pull this, it won't be me standing here. It'll be someone who can't fight back. Fix it before I have to." With that, she walked out into the fading sunlight, leaving the branch in stunned silence, and a reckoning on the horizon. Elena Vasquez didn't drive back to her sleek corner office in downtown Charlotte after leaving the East Branch. She didn't call her executive team or fire off emails demanding explanations. Instead, she pulled her beat-up sedan into a coffee shop parking lot 2 blocks away, ordered a black coffee, and sat at a corner table with her tote bag beside her. The $7,000 sat untouched inside, a quiet symbol of the battle she just fought, and won. But victory didn't feel sweet. It felt heavy. She sipped her coffee, staring out the window as cars rolled by, her mind replaying every moment in that lobby. This wasn't just about her pride. It was about the soul of Pinnacle Savings. She pulled out her phone and replayed the recording, the audio crisp despite the lobby's hum. Marcus's curt, "What do you need?" Lydia's clipped, "We need additional documentation." Her own voice, steady and sharp, cutting through their excuses. She stopped the video at the moment she'd revealed her identity, Lydia's gasp, Marcus's stammer, the guard's awkward shuffle. It was satisfying, sure, but it wasn't enough. Elena hadn't built Pinnacle to flex power or humiliate employees. She'd built it to lift people up. And today, she'd seen firsthand how far it had strayed. By the time she finished her coffee, a plan was forming. She wasn't going to let this end with a single withdrawal and a stern warning. This was a wake-up call, for her, for the branch, for the entire company. She drove home to her modest 2-story house on the outskirts of the city, a place that still surprised people who expected a CEO to live in a mansion. There, in her cluttered home office, she opened her laptop and started typing. First, an email to her HR director. I want a full audit of customer complaints across all branches, focusing on service disparities. Start with Charlotte East. Then, a note to her COO, we're launching a retraining program. Every employee, top to bottom. Emphasis on fairness and respect. I'll oversee it personally. But the real work began the next morning. Elena returned to the East Branch, this time in a tailored blazer and heels, her corporate ID clipped to her waistband. The lobby looked different in the daylight, busier, with a line snaking toward the tellers. She didn't join it. She walked straight to the manager's office, where Lydia sat behind a desk, her face paling as Elena entered without knocking. Ms. Vasquez, Lydia said, standing quickly. I didn't expect, Elena held up a hand. Sit. We're talking. For the next hour, Elena grilled Lydia, not with anger, but with precision. How were tellers trained? Who set the tone for customer interactions? Why had security measures been applied so selectively? Lydia stumbled through answers, admitting that Marcus had flagged Elena's withdrawal as suspicious based on gut instinct. When Elena pressed, what made it suspicious, Lydia faltered. He didn't say. I assumed, well, it was a large amount, Anne. She trailed off, the unspoken truth hanging between them. Elena nodded slowly. And I didn't look the part. That's what you're not saying. Lydia didn't deny it. Elena leaned back in her chair. Here's the deal. You're not fired, yet. But you're on notice. This branch is under review, and you're going to help me fix it. She outlined her plan, mandatory retraining, a new customer feedback system, and unannounced visits from mystery shoppers, some of whom would be Elena herself. You've got 1 month, she said. Show me this place can live up to what Pinnacle stands for, or you're out. Word spread fast. By noon, the branch buzzed with whispers, the CEO was here. She caught them slipping. Marcus avoided eye contact when Elena passed his station, but she didn't single him out. This wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability. She spent the afternoon observing, noting how tellers greeted customers, how long transactions took, who got questioned and who didn't. The patterns were subtle but clear. Younger customers, people of color, those in casual clothes faced more hurdles. It wasn't blatant, just enough to sting. That evening, Elena called an emergency meeting with her executive team via video conference. She played the recording, let them see the raw truth, then laid out her vision. We're not just a bank, she said, her voice firm. We're a promise. And we're breaking it. That stops now. The room was silent, then her COO spoke up. This could cost millions, retraining, audits, PR if it leaks. Elena didn't blink. It'll cost more if we don't. Trust is our currency. We lose that, we lose everything. Over the next week, the ripple effect grew. Employees at Charlotte East scrambled to adapt, knowing Elena's eyes were on them. Customers noticed, too, transactions sped up, smiles appeared, extra questions vanished. Elena didn't stop there. She visited other branches unannounced, each time as a regular customer, testing the system. Some passed with flying colors, others echoed the East Branch's failings. Every failure fueled her resolve. She wasn't just fixing a problem, she was reclaiming her bank's soul. By week's end, she stood in her office, staring at a framed photo from Pinnacle's first branch opening, her younger self, beaming, scissors in hand, cutting the ribbon. She'd been naive then, thinking policies alone could ensure fairness. Now, she knew better. Change didn't come from the top, it came from the trenches. And she was ready to fight there. 3 months later, Pinnacle Savings Bank was unrecognizable, not in its gleaming lobbies or digital kiosks, but in its heartbeat. Elena Vasquez had turned a single humiliating encounter into a revolution. The Charlotte East Branch, once a symbol of her disillusionment, now stood as a proving ground. Retraining was in full swing. Tellers, managers, even security guards sat through workshops Elena designed herself, role-playing scenarios, dissecting biases, learning to see every customer as equal. Complaints dropped 40% in the first month. Feedback forms, now mandatory at every transaction, glowed with praise. Fastest service ever. Felt respected. Finally a bank that gets it. Elena didn't stop at one branch. The audit she'd ordered uncovered a patchwork of issues, some branches shone, others festered with the same subtle gatekeeping she'd faced. She tackled them head-on, firing 3 managers who resisted change, promoting others who embraced it. Mystery shoppers, diverse in age, race, and attire, reported back weekly, their experiences shaping new standards. Elena joined them sometimes, slipping into branches in her denim jacket, testing the waters. Each time, she saw progress, fewer raised eyebrows, quicker service, genuine smiles. The cost was steep, millions in training, lost productivity, a PR campaign to tout the overhaul without admitting the why. But the payoff was bigger. Deposits rose as word spread. Pinnacle wasn't just another bank, it was a movement. Elena's story leaked, someone had shared her recording online, and instead of damage, it brought loyalty. Customers posted their own tales of being judged, then thanked her for fighting back. A viral hashtag Pinnacle Promise, trended for weeks. On a crisp June morning, Elena stood before a packed auditorium at Pinnacle's annual conference, her executive team behind her, employees from every branch in the seats. She wore no suit, just jeans and a blazer, her corporate ID dangling from her belt. 3 months ago, she began, I walked into my own bank and was treated like I didn't belong. I could have fired everyone involved and called it a day. But that's not why I built this place. She paused, letting the silence settle. I built Pinnacle for the underdog, for the people who get overlooked, underestimated, pushed aside. And I almost let it slip away. She clicked a remote, and the recording played on a massive screen, her voice, Lydia's excuses, the gasps of realization. The room was riveted. This isn't about shaming anyone, she continued. It's about owning our failures and fixing them. We're not perfect, but we're trying. And that's what sets us apart. She outlined the changes, retraining, transparency, a new customer council to keep leadership accountable. This isn't a one-time fix, she said. It's a promise, to you, to our customers, to myself. The applause was thunderous. Afterward, employees lined up to shake her hand, some teary-eyed, others fired up. Lydia approached, hesitant. Ms. Vasquez, I'm sorry. And thank you, for giving me a chance to do better. Elena nodded. You earned it. Keep proving it. That night, alone in her office, Elena opened a drawer and pulled out the $7,000 she'd withdrawn months ago. She'd never spent it. Instead, she wrote a check for the amount to a local charity supporting single mothers, a nod to her own start. Then she leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Pinnacle wasn't just her bank anymore, it was her fight, her redemption, her legacy reborn. And she'd make damn sure it stayed that way.